All right, this is for my junior level students, and I'm just going to briefly go over what we're learning this week. All right, so if you go to modules, you'll see that we're pretty much doing the same thing that we started last week. We're continuing our reading of George Takei's They Called Us Enemy, but then we're also going to begin our reading of John Hersey's Hiroshima. And so last week we learned about some of the history surrounding the events of these two works. Okay, we had a few brief history lessons. We learned about how to make an interpretation of a work of art, and we also learned how to read a graphic novel. And, expect when we get to our Zoom calls this week that we will be having a discussion over what we read in the graphic novel so far. Okay, you are required this week to read Hiroshima, Chapter 1, which you can find on Activity 5.2.1. Here you'll find a short video that introduces the author of the work and briefly discusses what it's about. And we'll get to meet our first 6 survivors in the first chapter. And we'll, of course, read this together during class. But if you find yourself unable to make it to class, maybe your Wi-Fi is not working, then please read this on your own. And I made sure to give you a copy of this document so you can annotate as you go along. Remember, we read better when we annotate and we make notes to ourselves and we highlight main ideas. And it's also important, too, to remember that as we read this thing, okay, you need to consider what evidence you need to collect that explains who your character is and what they're about. So if you go to the next page, you'll see the next excerpt of the graphic novel we've been reading. Okay, and you'll read the next 13 pages. And then when you're done with that, you're going to find this character analysis chart. And so go ahead and open that up. We'll open that together. And it looks like this. And so you'll see a chart, and in the first column you'll see a list of names. All right, the first name is George Takei, and last week we started reading about his story. And what you will do is you will go through here and you will give some information about these other characters as well. So I have the first one up here as an example. George is our first example. And then we have the 6 survivors from John Hersey's Hiroshima. And so what you'll do in this column right here is you will tell me what you interpreted about this character from the text, and you will make an inference as to who they are and what they're about. All right, remember when we make inferences, we're making educated guesses using our prior knowledge and using what we've read in the document. All right, in the next column, this is where you're going to put a quote from the text that supports the interpretation that you made here in this first box. So it needs to support your interpretation. Okay, the claim that you made about Reverend Mr. Kiyoshi Tanimoto that you made in this first box, you need to find a quote that works well with it. You need to find a quote that supports your claim. And not only do you need to find that quote, but you also need to explain this quote to me in your own words. So this is a lot of that CER stuff we've been working with. You're going to make a claim, find evidence to support that claim, and then list some reasoning. And so you'll do that for each character, and then that'll be it. Of course, this week you are also required to continue your work on your blogs. Make sure you make your weekly updates. And next week we'll be working with those as a class. We'll get to do some fun group assignments. So make sure you have your blogs looking nice and pretty. And have a wonderful day. I'll see you later.